This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
I have never felt from the very beginning that these protests around the world these last 8 months were about a ceasefire. We're about peace. We're about a two-state solution or anything like that. I have felt from the very beginning that all of these protests and all of these demonstrations and all of these riots and all of these campus sit-ins and all of these encampments around the world, in America and around the world, have all been about hating on Israel. Period. It's all been about Jew hate. It's been about Israel hate. Right now, this Tuesday, hopefully you're aware, Israel has accepted a ceasefire. The United States has endorsed the ceasefire. The entire United Nations, again, an institution that I can't stand and would abolish and would defund if I could, but the entire United Nations yesterday voted to approve of this ceasefire. Every country in the region has voiced support for this ceasefire. Everybody is on board supporting this ceasefire right now, this permanent, so-called permanent ceasefire, except for Hamas. Except for Hamas. This is not the first time that there's been a ceasefire on the table and Hamas has not accepted it. Here we are again, a ceasefire on the table that everybody has accepted except for Hamas. Here's my point. Where's the ceasefire crowd right now? How come the ceasefire crowd isn't setting up tents on college campuses protesting Hamas for not agreeing to this ceasefire, for not ending the violence, for not ending the destruction in Gaza? Where is the ceasefire crowd right now? It's not about a ceasefire. It's about Israel. It's never been about a ceasefire. Again, here we are again, right? Same old place, a ceasefire there, and everybody but Hamas has agreed to it. But yet the world protests against Israel. The world shouts and screams against Israel. The world gets angry at Israel. Hamas rejects another ceasefire, and the world gets angry at Israel. You tell me what that's about. You tell me what that's about. Now I want to remind all of you that the protests and the demonstrations against Israel, listen to what I'm about to say, they began immediately after October 7th. They began immediately after October 7th. In Europe, in America, around the world, the demonstrations and the protests against Israel. Now think about something here. Israel was hit on October 7th. Hamas invaded Israel, slaughtered 1,400 Israeli civilians, kidnapped a couple hundred Israeli civilians. And before, listen to what I'm about to say, before Israel even began to respond to that attack, there were protests and demonstrations around the world against Israel. How can that be? Hamas hits Israel. Israel doesn't yet respond, and the world begins protesting against Israel. You tell me then what these protests and these demonstrations have been all about. And I won't even get into the whole issue, as was leaked again in the Wall Street Journal today, text messages from Hamas's leadership talking about how they need a lot of Palestinian deaths, right, to garner the support of the world. I won't even get into that right now. Hamas wants dead Palestinians. Hamas needs dead Palestinians. Dead Palestinians are primary to Hamas's strategy and objectives. Don't even need to go down that road right now. It's true. But this has all been a bunch of bullshit these last 8 months. Everything that's been happening on these college campuses, all the protests in cities around the country and around the world. They were in New York City again last night, demonstrating and getting violent in New York City outside the Nova exhibition, the exhibition in New York City honoring the young Israelis, the young people who were killed at that musical festival in Israel on October 7th. Outside of that location in New York City, these people are protesting against Israel. That has nothing to do with the ceasefire. That's all about Israel hate. That's all about Jew hate. These protests and these demonstrations these past 8 months have had nothing to do with the ceasefire. They've had everything to do with hating on Israel. And they've been outed again right now. Another ceasefire on the table. And everybody's come to the table except for Hamas. And not one fucking peep out of the ceasefire crowd. I'm Joe Walsh. Thanks for listening. Joe Walsh, whiteflag@gmail.com. One word. Joe Walsh, whiteflag@gmail.com. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.